2025. It's 6 o'clock. The appointed time. This is the Brown County Election Board public hearing for vote centers. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Including us. I am passionate. It's the fact.
The passionate group and the good election.
Right, the election board is present. This is the second public meeting to get the views of the of anyone from the Brown County community that cares to make a comment. I have some opening remarks, and then Perlita will go through a PowerPoint that's been prepared. Thank you very much for that. Just so you'll know that the board is made up of Perlita Banks, the county clerk, and Rick Kelly representing the Democratic Party, as well as myself, Mark Williams, representing the Republican Party. The board has appointed a study committee to participate in the planning process regarding vote centers. The committee is responsible to develop a vote center plan, taking into account the where and how vote centers would be recommended, taking into account the location of the vote centers, the proposed staffing, the layout of the vote center area in each location, and the equipment to be used, as well as many other items that are required by statute. Members of the board and the vote center study committee some of the members are here today. I know Mark Bowman is here. I see Sherry Frank representing the League of Women Voters, Amy Oliver representing the school board, all the members we have here. Sorry, Laura, didn't see you back there. And Darren Bird, I didn't see him. He was apologize for that. And Laura Rudd is here. That's what we got. Yeah. I apologize. I got I had cataracts, so I got rid of the cataracts and got these wonderful new lenses, so I see perfectly from out there, but I can't see well enough to read small things, so I need some reading glasses. But when I have the reading glasses on, I can't see anything out there. So anyway, sorry for that. The purpose of this committee is not to suggest a process or to gain partisan advantage. Rather, it is focused on all of the voters of Brown County, determining whether vote centers are desirable, and if so, how they should be structured. You are an integral part of this process. The board has allocated 3 dates for questions and comments as to the concept and the plan for vote centers. This session will be followed by a session here in the Salmon, this is today, will be followed by a final session at 2 p.m. on June 18th here in the Salmon Room. Your comments will be taken into account, and the study committee plans to present the preliminary plan on June 25th. In that June 25th meeting, we will take only written comments, as that is specifically provided by law. Fundamental goal of the election board is to better utilize the schools on election day. The school buildings are strategically located, have well-lit and level paved parking lots, and are compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The committee recognizes that the Lakes region is geographically unique, and therefore it is anticipated we will suggest that the Church of the Lakes be included as well. Fortunately, the Board of Education has declared that the schools will not be open on election days commencing in 2026, thereby making the schools available. Amy Oliver represents the school board on the committee and is chair of our subcommittee examining locations and layouts. I want to thank the school board and Superintendent Emily Tracy for their cooperation and civic concern. So what is the difference between vote centers and traditional precinct located polling places? As we have operated, we have 11 precincts at 9 polling locations. Each of the Fruitdale Fire Department building and the Helmsburg Fire Department building house 2 precincts in very cramped quarters. Each precinct on primary and general election day is staffed by at least 1 inspector, 2 judges, and 2 poll clerks. There may also be 2 sheriffs per precinct. You may only vote at the polling place location for your precinct, and your precinct is determined based on where you live in the county. Vote centers allow anyone registered to vote in Brown County to vote at any vote center. Vote centers work like branch banks. You may usually do your banking in Nashville, but if one day you're in Franklin and you need a bank, you need not drive back to Nashville. You can visit the Franklin branch of your bank. So with vote centers within Brown County, you may vote at any vote center from election day to election day, wherever you may then find it yourself and being the most convenient. Another goal of vote centers is to consolidate voting locations, utilizing buildings most advantageous to the voting process. With that process, therein laid out in a most efficient manner to facilitate speed, accuracy, and speed of voting. Vote centers may also serve more voters with fewer overall poll officials. That's not assured. One thing is the same, your precinct will not change. Only your choice of voting location may change from election to election. One other thing to mention, if you've been following the news for the past couple of months, that you know that there was some doubt whether the county would be required to change the electronic poll books currently in use, as they were thought not to be supported in the future by our vendor. That concern is now removed for the 2026 election cycle, but we are unclear beyond whether our vendor will thereafter continue. If it is necessary to change vendors, I can tell you that the election board would then recommend a substitute to the commissioners. Electronic poll books are a requirement for vote centers, as it is important to ensure voter does not go from vote center location to from a vote center location to another location on election day, voting in each. The committee does not intend to recommend any change to the method of voting or the voting equipment now in use, although the addition of individual ballot printers at each vote center is being contemplated and perhaps anticipated. Okay, now I will open the floor for your comments and questions. Excuse me. After the clerk prepares or delivers her presentation, PowerPoint presentation, we'll look at moving towards comments and questions from the audience. Rolita, I think you'll be able to see this on the projector.
Welcome to the Brown County Vote Center public meeting of May the 22nd, 2025. We will provide an overview of vote centers, discuss some differences between voting precinct locations and having vote centers. Then we will invite those in the audience to ask questions or provide comment. If you wish to comment, you will be asked to come to the microphone at the podium, state your name, address, and you will have 3 to 5 minutes to make a comment or ask a question. Whether Brown County keeps precinct voting or developed vote centers. Voters must be registered to vote. You need to make sure that you check your voter registration 29 days before each election to make sure that it is active. Because once election day gets here, if you're not an active registered voter, you will not be permitted to vote. That's state law, not my law. Indiana voter portal will show you, you can go to the indianavoters.com and the portal will show you your registration, voting hours, and the locations. Voting in person, voters must show a current picture ID issued by the state or federal government, i.e. your driver's license, a passport, a state ID, or a military ID. And this has to happen whether we stay with precinct voting or go to vote centers. In-person voting in Brown County, voters choose how they will vote. Hand-marked ballot, or you can vote on the Freedom Vote machine, which is a ballot marking device. Once the voter has voted, you will put your ballot into what we call the OVO, which is known as the ballot counter. And you'll want to verify that the clerks at your polling location who have checked you in, they have both initialed the back of your ballot. That's very important. If those initials aren't there, then your vote will not count. Let's compare precinct voting to vote centers. As Mark said, the current way that we vote, you have to go to an assigned precinct. We have 11 precincts in 9 locations. Voting in this method that we currently use, if a voter casts a ballot at the wrong precinct, it won't count. If we go to our proposed vote center voting, a voter can vote in any location. We will have 5 locations, and within those 5 locations, any voter from the 11 precincts can vote at any one of those places. The voter can pick the location most convenient for them, whether it's close to home, close to work, close to town, coming or going. You don't have to be sure that you leave work early to rush to the other side of the county if you live in Columbus, but you live all the way in Jackson or Hamlin. You can stop as you come through town, stop at the high school and cast your vote. This is our current polling locations, all 11 precincts. As Mark had stated, we utilize most of the fire departments, which get very cramped. And our proposed vote center locations would be the 3 elementaries, the high school, and Church of the Lakes. This is what the current situation compared to vote centers would look like. On the left there, you see all of the precincts that we currently vote at compared to where they would be if we were to go to vote centers.
But you could vote at any one of those if we go to vote centers.
And again, here are the dates that Mark mentioned for the remainder of our upcoming public meetings. We'll talk about if vote centers are desirable, more convenient, how we came to the proposed locations, We'll invite you to ask questions. Our study committee is there. The members are devised of a representative from each political party, the school board, the county council, and the League of Women Voters. The final vote center plan will be presented at our June 25th meeting. We have to have a unanimous vote from the election board to move to vote centers. We will have to have a majority vote from the commissioners, and we have to have approval of the council. And that's the end of that. So at this time, we will invite you to come to the microphone. And remember, state your name, your address, and please keep it anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. Anybody? You'll need to turn. Thank you.
My name is Kathy Roundtree. I live at 1354 Whitby Road in Nashville. I'm very much in favor of vote centers. I have some questions. I'd like to know a little more about how the vote center locations were determined. And then I'm wondering if the group would be sharing with the public what the written comments were to help us understand how you took that into account as you made the decisions. I do very much appreciate the opportunity in Brown County to have a handwritten paper ballot that's scanned. So preserving that to me is very important. And those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Well, I think that you're not alone in having a ballot, marking a ballot to scan. So we will continue to provide that with the large ballots. One of the differences would be, instead of having all those ballots pre-printed, you would have printers attached to the poll books, so that when your proper location is determined, the ballot would be printed just for you. I will say that the other option for voters to have a marked ballot to put in the scanner is the Freedom Vote machine. Some people believe that mistakenly that is an electronic voting machine. In fact, what it is a means of marking a ballot. So you go screen by screen by screen, you touch the screen as to what question, your answer to a particular question, or what candidate you wish to vote for. Then when you're finished, you get a chance to go back through and look at it very carefully, just like you would your big ballot. And then when you're finished, you push a button, and it prints a piece of paper about that long and about that wide, and on that piece of paper is your ballot. So there's no one votes in Brown County that doesn't get a ballot. And then you can look at that ballot, make sure everything's that is just like what you saw on the machine. And then you run that ballot, you take that ballot back up to the clerks, you get them to initial the back, and the judges would help with that. And then you take that and you run it through the tabulator, just like you would the big ballot. The advantages of that are there's you don't have to mark, you don't have to get ink all over you. That's number one. But importantly, if you if you have a disability, it's easier to vote with that machine if you have a motor disability than it is with holding a pen and marking. Also, if you have a disability with respect to your vision, you can put headphones on, and there's a device that you can use that people with vision disabilities are very familiar with to mark your ballot that way, and then it generates the ballot itself, and then you can go over and run that through the tabulator. So either way, you cast a ballot. Either way, you mark a ballot that you can review. Sharing the written comments, yes, we'll share the written comments. We'll be taking them into account, so I would think that we would before the final meeting, we would publish those. We haven't decided. Suspect it'll go on the somewhere on the clerk's page, then you'll be able to see if we properly took them into account or not, or we'll explain maybe why we didn't. Well, that'll be published. One of the things we're trying to do here is to be very open about this process. Nobody's trying to hide the ball. And that's why we're holding 3 public hearings before we get down to drafting documents. Okay?
And thank you. And then could you address how you picked the locations?
Okay, excuse me.
Thank you.
Well, this was something that the election board had been wrestling with for some time. Was our polling places, and not all of our polling places were fully ADA compliant. Some of them were difficult to get to, so we were looking for polling places that had paved parking lots, paved all the way from where your car might be, no matter how many cars are there, through the door, with a door that didn't require you to go up lots of steps or down lots of steps, which was very, very well lit, and where there was plenty of room to actually move around and for the poll workers not to be crowded and the voters not to be crowded. Well, the logical in Brown County, there's not a whole lot of places like that. So the logical place were the schools. But it was problematic to be able to be in there on election day while all the students were there, especially with all the school's concerns about security. And so upon request to the school board and to the superintendent, they very graciously rescheduled the school calendar, so they're going to be closed. So that made the schools available to us. And then if you look at where the polling places were and sort of where the population centers were, if you sort of make a big square, one at Helmsburg, one at Van Buren, one at Spernica, and one in Nashville, that were schools, you catch most all of the county, and you also are very, very close to where the polling places are now. The only thing that you didn't catch was the Lakes region, and our polling place at the Lakes region is the Church of the Lakes. They're they're materially ADA compliant. They have a very nice facility for us. We thought it was that would be important because so many people that live at the church that live at the lakes, their travel every day is to go north, and then their terminus is at the lakes, and there's not another place within the county for them. So that's how we arrived at the 5.
I'm Studebaker, a Nashville resident. First thing I want to do is compliment the selection board for taking the initiative to look into this whole question of voting centers and to evaluate it the way you did. By appointing a committee, which I think the makeup of that committee spanned an awful lot of the areas of interest throughout the county. So my congratulations on the effort that both you and the committee have put together.
Thank you.
Looking at the map, Mark, what you just said about the location makes a whole lot of sense. Most of it's very near the 4 locations are very near where it exists today. And the idea of a facility near the lakes just makes perfect sense to that population density. I also like the idea that the school board, working with you folks and using those public buildings for another function that is very public in its operation, and that is voting. So excellent job. That being said, I just want to tell you, I fully support this idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Question, comment?
Yes. Sorry,
It's all right.
my knee is not working. Let me bring the mic to you.
Yeah.
Just do my chest or thing.
You know, the thing is, I know exactly, something about your knee doesn't work. I understand that. The great thing is that even though it takes us longer to get ready to speak, the wisdom acquired through all the years is worth listening to.
That is exactly what I'm going to say. In my wisdom, I am going to thank.
Give us your name and give us your name.
Heather Nicholson, 50 Pine Hills Drive, Nashville. I'm truly glad that the school board has stepped up and said to use the buildings. I have worked in 4 different states as a teacher in 5 different school districts. The 4th, I say. And every single one of them was a voting spot, except for here, which I haven't worked here, so I guess that was it. But it is part of education. It's part of, you see the kids see the polling booths up, they see the signs, they see the activity. It's part of being an American. And for us to not have them in the schools was a surprise to me. And so I'm very, very happy that that came about finally. And of course, everyone knows where the schools are. That's easy to find, that kind of thing. And definitely they're made for any kind of access, egress and things. So it just, so happy to see that we have evolved.
Trying to make it work so that we can have the election and have the schools in session around the election and not make it difficult on the security issues that the schools have. And I wanted the Amy Oliver is the chairman of this particular subcommittee that's reviewing all the locations, and one of the big issues that they'll have to decide on is exactly where in those schools is the ideal place. And one of the reasons for that is that the equipment will have to be delivered the day before and picked up the day after. That it needs to be, in a location where it creates the least disruption. And we don't have security issues. So Thank you for that. Who else has a comment? Yes, ma'am. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Hi.
I'm Joy Martin. I'm on 1531 Harrison Ridge Road. I'm an electrical engineer. And I am not in favor of vote centers. For several reasons. I don't believe they are secure with regard to internet connections. I have several questions about that. Are there barcodes printed on the ballots from the ballot printers?
Yes,
So if there's a barcode printed on the ballot, then when that ballot is scanned, that barcode can be associated with the person who received the ballot and what was voted on within that ballot. So that says that the vote is not private,
The,
not secret.
with respect to the paper ballot, that's not the case. With respect to the ballot card, with respect to the freedom vote, there is a mark placed on the ballot that in the circumstance where a voter voted and died before election day, and the election, like say in early voting, the election board has an obligation to retrieve that ballot. Now, with the new law that goes into effect, if that method is used before in early voting, the voter can take that ticket and run it through and be tabulated, or be counted, not finally tabulated, but counted. And so that even if they died, you'd be able to retrieve that ballot.
So you're
So
saying
that's-
that is true,
It is true in that one limited circumstance.
but it's true in one circumstance, it is.
It's authorized by the legislature.
But it is the case that our ballot and our vote is not private.
Yes, as authorized by the legislature. We didn't make it up.
Okay, in the case of, voter and ballot security, if the, voter votes at one of the vote centers and the, electronic trigger to receive and tabulate that is not set, what is to prevent that voter from going to a second vote center? What is the indication that will come to indicate that that voter has already been taken?
It'll be recorded in the poll book.
If that transmission does not take place in all of the other vote centers. The data glitch.
once the poll books come back up, let's do a hypothetical. If the poll book at Helmsburg School gets disconnected from the MiFi connection and a voter votes there, because you can still check voters in even without the MiFi connection. But the voter votes there, and then he leaves that location and he drives out to Van Buren and he wants to try to test the waters and see if he can vote a second time. Well, because Helmsburg has no MiFi connection, it's not going to be able to communicate with Van Buren at that time. However, at the end of the day, when we shut the polls down and I retrieve all those poll books and we bring them all back up, it will update, and at that point, it will throw a red flag to tell us that John Doe has just committed voter fraud.
Have you seen that in a report before?
I have talked to my vendor numerous times.
Now, have you seen that in Brown County?
I have not.
Because if you go anywhere in the county on a cell phone, you know, there are disruptions in that network from time to time. Place to place.
There are, but with moving our voting inside of the schools, there is a less chance of us not having MiFi connection than there is where we currently vote, because I can tell you that in any one of the fire departments, you can't get a MiFi connection. None of them, because the buildings are steel, the roofs are steel, and the MiFis don't work.
So you're saying you cannot guarantee that a person can vote more than one time or on the vote center?
There are no guarantees in life. So no, to answer your question, no, I can't guarantee that.
Thank you.
At the time that it's happening, I can't guarantee that it doesn't happen then. But at the end of the day, that person, if they attempt it, will be caught.
If it
And
works.
voter fraud is a federal offense.
If the electronic transmission recovers.
It will, because in my office, I have an electronic commission, and that's where all of those poll books will go. And so again, if a voter attempts that, I will call Brad on his cell phone, and that person will get a night stay at Brad's hotel until the federal agents come to town.
If there is a 100% miss collection. So you
got about one more minute.
Thank you. The cost of the vote centers compared to paper poll books. What is the cost of the vote center machines, lease and license? I just a question and ask me.
The lease is, do you have the details on that? The lease is just about, paid, in full, and it's a lease to purchase. So I think there's one more
One
payment?
more payment, 2026.
How much is it?
Seems like it was about
The poll books, it's,
7,000, 5,000, something like that for the actual poll book purchase and
So
license.
5,000.
about that. Approximately 35 for the poll books.
For this year and then next year, you know?
No, it's not that, no, the poll books are not that expensive.
Okay, what
It's
is,
about 3,500 per poll book, 4,000. So it's what you said. Okay, so,
and what is the license fee?
the license.
You said the lease was 3,400
License
License fee is $57 a year.
per machine,
No,
total,
total.
every
Or-
2 years,
election years or
for
non-election?
election years.
Election years,
And what is it for non-election years?
roughly $2,500.
So if we all add that all up, how does that compare to a paper poll book?
The problem with the paper poll book is that is back in the days when paper, you'll remember this from the first time around. Back in the days when paper poll books were all that there was to be used, there was no such thing as early voting.
I'm sorry, what?
There was no such thing as early voting. And so nowadays, with virtually 30 days of early voting, you would have to take the paper poll books and refresh them overnight in the clerk's office for the next day. That would require a bipartisan overnight group of people, which would have to be paid at least time and a half, if not double time, for working through the middle of the night. And that would all have to be done then. So the cost of a paper poll book nowadays is a tremendous cost in human cost, and you would have to recruit and find competent people to be able to update those poll books. Now
That's only the case if they are a vote center. If it's a precinct, they
No,
don't have
it's
to
the
get.
precinct, same thing.
If
It's just not,
it's the same thing.
Every precinct would have to be updated.
You can't have vote centers if you use paper poll books.
I'm sorry,
You cannot have You cannot have vote centers if you have paper poll books.
I agree, that's what I
The
said.
problem with early voting is you'd have to have a poll book for every precinct.
Yes, if we have.
Your time, you have,
we'd
all your
to
time's
book.
up.
Your time's up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else?
Your turn, Amy.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Amy Oliver. I live in Annandale, Nashville, and I'm a school board member. I appreciate everybody talking about the schools as a great location, and I agree with that. I remember voting in the schools. Gosh, I feel old. But I am really thrilled that we're going to be able to do that. I did just want to address one question, I think, that was brought up about having the reason we have to close school. And I think that is a change. I don't think it's actually in the law, but the concern here is that we have our schools tightly security today, right? Different than we would have had 20 years ago. And so there's a concern about, unfortunately, we have things, all kinds of security concerns. We don't let anybody in our buildings at all unless they have gone through the front security. We have, they get name tags. We know who's in the building, and anybody, even a parent that goes on a field trip today, has to have a criminal history check, because we also have to be concerned about sexual predators. And so that is the reason that the building needs now to be closed. We used to do it when kids were in the building. But at the moment, those security concerns, I think all around the state, is now best practices that we have the building closed. And that way, then we don't, there will be people in the building, but they won't be there at the same time as children. And we'll be able to close off all of those other hallways. We'll have only one entrance and exit, and we'll be able to really be very firmly convinced that we have security in the buildings. And I am really pleased, like with the map that we have, we do happen to have a building in each one of our townships. And it is, one of my favorite things about Brown County is that our schools are community centers. That's the center of activity in each one of those areas, and everybody does know where it is, and everybody's comfortable there. And I think that's really going to be great. So I'm very excited about that. I just sent a note to our committee members that we are going to be going on a site visits, and I think we have settled on a day. And I'm really excited about that as well. So we're going to walk through exactly what these votes, what everything's going to look like, where it's going to be, what our map is going to be about, the voters' experience, and what kind of staffing we need for each of those things. So hopefully then that will help us create the plan at the end of June that will then lay out all of the remaining details that we need to have. So just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
And she's okay.
The problem of her
Luckily, you had that.
graceful entrance.
Luckily, you had that oak lectern to stop you.
I would have run into you guys. I really appreciate you taking your due diligence. Oh, Pam Rader, and I live at Somerset Lake in Brown County. And I'm glad you're allowing comments. I'm actually for vote centers, but I know our county next door, Monroe County, has been considering vote centers as well. And I read on their news feed that they nixed it. And I'm curious if anyone knows why, and if we should find out why, just to consider it in our whole process. And that's my only comment, because Monroe County, the people over there seem to me pretty smart and educated, and so I'm just curious why they nixed it.
It was in the paper today, the Herald Times.
Did it say why?
Kind of, yeah.
May we hear?
Yeah. I literally only know what I read in the Herald Times this morning, but they had gone through the process of creating the plan. And the Republican member arrived that night and read a 2-page statement about why he was opposed to it, and it has to be a unanimous vote. The impression I got was that they didn't know that was coming. So, it was a surprise. So that's the way it read.
Yeah, just interesting. Okay. I need to get back to my seat.
I will tell you, I will share with you all, as of 6 o'clock at the start of this meeting, before I knew that Monroe County had nixed it all together, the remaining 6 counties who are not vote centers were all working on their plan. And the hopes was that by the 2026 election cycle, that all 92 counties would be vote center counties. So we are only one of 6 who still precinct vote.
Having said that, I think that part of why we've done the legwork that we've done and have the breadth of the committee that we have, is to avoid those sorts of things. It is the unanimous commitment of the board to get vote centers like what you see up on that board. I know that speaking to the election division during the general election and asked about vote centers, and I know that Howard County, Kokomo, it took them 5 years to get to a plan. So some counties, people are hard to get along with sometimes. They're not as lucky as we are here. Other comments? Thoughts?
Mentioned precincts potentially changing.
Yeah. Sherry, before you start, excuse me. And Sherry, you prepared this PowerPoint, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Because of the misalignment that exists with representation levels in the county council districts, you have 2 groups of counselors. You have groups at large, and then you have a group that represents a particular area. There was about a 19% deviation in representation from the most represented district to the least represented district. So that had to change as a matter of law, and so it has changed, and so as a result of that, I believe that at the next election, in 2026, Jackson 4 will go away, and there will be changes to many voters affecting both Washington 1, 2, and 3. And Washington 2 will no longer be just the town of Nashville. It'll be the town of Nashville in some areas of the county. So we'll be using split ballots in Washington 2. So the point is of all that is there's going to be fruit basket shakeup, whether in polling locations for a lot of people in 2026. And the best way to avoid confusion is to go to vote centers, because no matter where you go to vote, you're going to be in the right place, as opposed to if you're in precincts, you may be driving around a little bit. So that's a tidbit that we didn't really have at the first meeting, but first public meeting, but I wanted to go through that now. Okay, Sherry, go ahead.
Still on? Yeah.
Yep.
Sherry Frank, live on 2721 Tulip Tree Road. I just also want to echo that I thank you guys for doing the work to give people a chance to weigh in. As far as Monroe County, if anybody's interested in the details of those decisions or the person that voted against it, I can forward you the statement that they made. It was covered by B Square Bulletin, I think it's called. And also WFIU or Indiana Citizen covered it. So if anybody wants that information, I'm happy to forward it to you. From everything I read, it was the majority of the people who spoke were in favor of vote centers. A handful were not, and I don't have all the reasons, but so
Okay.
they haven't considered it dead yet, but they will be addressing it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mike Roberts, Camp Roberts.
Bend that up so you don't have to.
Mike Roberts, live in Camp Roberts. In support of vote centers. I think it's an excellent way to get everyone represented and a chance to vote. You have so many people that work outside the county and are racing in the evenings trying to get to their vote centers or their vote places or precincts. And they can't make it. But they drive by 3 to get to their 1,
Yeah.
right? So now they have the opportunity to get that vote in and cast their vote. And it's important because every vote counts. Important that you have every vote. When the newspaper article in the Democrat first came out about vote centers, about discussion and talking about it, we had lots of people come into the clerk's office and ask questions about vote centers. And once it got explained to them about how it would work in the process, they were excited. They were excited to have this opportunity. So I think it's a good thing. It'll work good for the county, it'll save money. Won't have to print a whole lot of extra ballots because we'll be able to print the ballot right there that you need instead of having 6 boxes that we got to trash or throw away. Because now we got just the right number of ballots that we need for our voters. So, in support.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Roberts is a member of my staff, so he can tell you firsthand the craziness that goes on with all those pre-printed ballots. And if they get printed wrong, well, you're stuck with all the wrong ones, and then you get all the right ones, and then you can't get through my office.
So, yeah, that's with the ballot printers, we will save a material amount of money because if you have all those ballots printed, you have to project how many ballots you're going to need. And, if you over project, then, you spend a lot of money that's literally going to be burned up. Okay, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. This is Sheriff Frank.
I will just tag on to that remark. Every election, it just saddens me greatly to go to the provisional ballot meeting and see a handful of voters whose votes don't count because they were in the wrong precinct. So I think that to me is one of the valuable parts of having vote centers.
That's amazing that folks either they run out of time, or it's just not convenient for them to get to their precinct, so they rather cast a provisional ballot so that they know won't be counted, but at least they have the satisfaction of voting, that'll all go away. Anything else? Okay, we'll have one more public meeting. And, if there's nothing else, then, this meeting is adjourned.